Do you believe in the reality of this vibrational reality?
Mm-hmm.
And do you believe that it is calling you?
Mm-hmm.
And do you believe that you can hear the calling when you're worried?
No.
So does it make sense to you that you would do anything that you could to just sort of lighten up?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the ability to lighten up?
Mm-hmm.
And why do some things feel so important that you can't really lighten up? Esther knows this. She's argued with us about many things. But, I know how I'm supposed to feel, but this is so in my face.
Mm-hmm.
So when you wake up in the morning,
mm-hmm.
do you have a long list of troubling things?
Not a long list, just a significant list.
And just give us a brief description of the nature of those troubling things.
Biggest thing would be around money.
Do you believe that there's money in your vortex?
Yes.
And do you believe that feeling lighter about it lets some of it loose into your experience?
Mm-hmm.
And yet you feel tense about it, which doesn't let it loose? Don't you sort of want to do the thing that would loosen that up?
Mm-hmm.
So does it feel to you that the thing that would loosen up the money is to think about the money?
No.
So what might you think about that's not related to money, that has almost no resistance in it? What could you think about that would loosen it up? In other words, are you understanding? The topic that's bothering you, we want it to be irrelevant to you. And that's hard because law of attraction keeps making it relevant. But every time it shows up, you've got to say, I'm not ready for you now. I'm still mad at you. I'm not ready to think about you now. I'm still mad at you. I'd rather think about you. I'd rather think about this. I'd rather think about that. Are we making any inroads into your deciding about how you might approach it differently?
I'm wondering if it's the balance of the amount of time that I'm not spending on other subjects, because I do this. I spend time asking myself what would feel good to think about now, or what would feel good to do now, and try to stay off that subject. Or when I'm on that subject, I try to just be really general. So try to apply those things.
Are you saying that this is a subject that has so many facets in your life that it's hard to stay off of?
It's hard to stay off of, and I also, I'm aware of my guidance, and I think about like driving on the interstate and those bumps along the side of the road, and I know that when I feel those bumps that I should correct my steering, but I feel like when I'm trying to correct my steering, I feel like the steering wheel's locked.
The reason that we ask this question, and all of you will benefit by this conversation, the reason we ask this question is because we know it must sound very simplistic to you all when we say, oh, these important things are bothering you, well, just don't think about it. Think about this lighter, fluffier thing over there. And while it sounds like a good idea, if what's bothering you is showing up in your experience and bothering you now, then of course, this is all easier said than done. It's easier to experience theoretically than it is to experience in actuality. So if a subject that is really troubling only comes up occasionally, be pretty easy for you to just stay off the subject mostly, and everything in your life would improve. But if this thing that's really dogging you, which is usually money, health, or a relationship, it's usually one of those things that's the big bugaboo. If this thing that's sort of dogging you keeps showing up, and just staying off the subject isn't happening because it's just too bumpy of a ride for you, and so you just keep being called back to it, then it's important to take the subject and diffuse it by focused and deliberate thought. Bridge your belief about it. Now, that's really not what we want to encourage you to do. And if we were just meeting with all of you today and it was just your first emergence into physical experience and you didn't have so much piled up that you were worried about, then we could just say, focus on the puppy and you'll live happily ever after. And the little kids seem to know that. But after you have these things that you've got a lot of momentum going, then when we say focus upon the puppy, you can't focus upon the puppy because there's already enough momentum. It's already showing up. It's like law of attraction is causing it to demand your attention. So then, in that case, you say, all right, law of attraction, since you have demanded my attention, I'm still going to find the best thought that I can find about this. I'm going to gradually, and with some maybe uncomfortable attention, I'm going to bridge this belief into something that feels better. So let's do this. This is a topic that a lot of people are feeling energy around. Let's bridge beliefs about money. So you start. Start wherever you are. Just say what you feel about it. Don't lie. Don't pretend. Don't make it rosier than it is. Say what you feel about money.
It doesn't matter what I do. I don't have enough money.
All right, so there it is, and others can relate. There are 2 other people in the room that feel the same way. Doesn't matter what I do. Things don't change. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what I do. So just sit with that for a minute and feel how awful that feels, really. That does not feel good. It's a really discouraging statement. And the reason that it feels discouraging is because there's so much contrast in what your inner being knows about that. But you are where you are, and that's all right. And your inner being holds no grudges. Your inner being isn't disappointed that you feel that way. But nevertheless, your inner being is going to continue to feel the optimistic way your inner being feels about it relative to you. So when you feel that way, you can feel the discord. So your interest here in bridging a belief, what your goal is to soften the negative emotion, to cause the negative emotion to be less strong. Because think about it, if the negative emotion is less strong, then the engines are falling off that end of the track. And now momentum is starting to take you toward closing that gap. You're going to feel better just with a little bit of attention to the subject. So it doesn't matter what I do, things don't change for me financially. And now we're just going to pile on a little bit. Doesn't matter what I do with action. Doesn't matter what job I have. Doesn't matter how many hours I work. Really getting carried away on your behalf. Doesn't matter how many hours I work. And it apparently doesn't seem to matter how much Abraham crap I apply. Things just are not getting that much better. So there, it's said. It's all out there in the open. This is how I feel.
Except things are not getting so much better, things are getting worse.
The harder I try, the worse it gets.
There you go. There you go.
The harder I try, the worse it gets. So, good. Now let's start there, because your inner being inspired that thought just now. Mm-hmm. Such a good thought, because that's a thought that you can begin to pick up on. The harder I try, the worse it gets. There's something in the Abraham logic that speaks to that. Because when I'm trying with action to compensate for a vibration. I'm not really dealing with the vibration. I'm not really shifting the vibration. And the more attention I give to what I don't want, then the more it feels like I need to try. But there's logic in that, because law of attraction says the more attention I give toward what I don't want, then the more I am disallowing what I do want. So it's too big of a jump for me to say, oh, it's going to be all right, because I've already worked myself into a place where I've kind of proven to myself that it's not really getting that much better. In fact, it's getting a little bit worse. However, when you're in a negative place, the however can only help, yes? However, I do have evidence in my own life about the effect of law of attraction in my experience. And I do accept that I am mostly vibrational. And I do believe, or at least I want to believe, that I have an inner being who's calling me. And I do believe that it can get better. I just haven't seen the evidence or the trail of when that's going to actually happen. I get the theory of law of attraction. I've just got, apparently, a strong enough momentum that I haven't figured out how to get on the other side of that. I'm looking forward to the relief of not working against myself. I'm quite proud of my physical capabilities. I might be doing, oh, you're going to like this so much. I might be doing what so many people are doing, not being quite able yet to tend to it energetically. And I'm jumping into the action part and trying to tend to it. But action, which I'm using to try to compensate for energy that I didn't work out well, is counterproductive. Now, we're going to come back and we're going to do more bridging. But before we do, there's a piece of something that we would like all of you to hear. You're going to feel strong understanding and resonance wash through you. This is going to click into place for you in a very strong way. So let's start with the subject. How do thoughts actually turn to things? How does my desire for money actually turn into tangible assets and currency that I can exchange from things? How does that vibrational currency actually turn into the spendable kind? How does that happen? So this is how it happens. So through life, through experiences just like what you're feeling now, you've put a veritable fortune in your vortex vibrationally. It's astonishing how much is there. That's part of the reason that you're feeling so much frustration. It's because the larger part of you knows it and the human part of you doesn't. And so the stronger you feel about something, the more the vortex has to offer you. So here's this fortune that is there, ready for your receipt. So let's say that you are able to get distracted from it. We're just pretending for a moment. You are able to get distracted, that there are a lot of other things that are really pleasing to you that have your attention. Or let's say you went on a 2-week paid vacation that someone else paid for, so just for a little while you weren't giving any thought to any of the things that you're worried about. So you're sort of more in a neutral zone than you've been for a while. So ideas begin to come from this vortex, and they bubble up, and you almost receive them, and they bubble up, and you almost receive them, and they bubble up, and you almost receive them, and they bubble up, and you almost receive them. And then one day, after a particularly good morning, walking on the beach and having a wonderful time with someone, they bubble up and you get it. You get the idea. The vibration turns to a thought in your mind that sparks you in a new way, and you feel a little elation or a little expectation. You feel just a little enthusiasm about something. You feel renewed for just a moment. And let's say that that feeling feels so good, and because of the conditions of where you are, you keep focusing positively, because after all, you don't need to go home yet and face the music about anything. So you're just riding that wave, and as you ride that wave, you enter into what we are calling a sweet spot, where ideas just begin to flow to you, and they feel so good. For the first time in a long time about this subject, you feel energized and expectant. The black cloud is lifted off of you, and you feel not just hopeful, but pretty sure that things are opening up for you. You've tasted for a long enough period of time, we're talking about a minute or 2 or 3 or 4, you've tasted for a little bit of time the feeling of connection, and for that period of time, you know about yourself and your prosperity, what your inner being knows, and you have moved enormously vibrationally. Now, the leverage of that is bigger than we can even describe. Because now you've just with that little bit of alignment, you've set yourself up to the receptive mode of one good idea after another. Not so different than Esther getting the idea, let's look on the internet, let's choose that hotel, let's call them, and then everything unfolded so quickly behind it. When you get on the right track, things unfold very rapidly for you, and they become tangible and satisfying in that whole new way. So you got that? Could you feel that? So now, instead of it going that way, so here's all this wonderful stuff gestating over there in your vortex, all of that prosperity, all of that potential, all of those wonderful things that are there to surprise and delight you. But you can't quite get there because you're facing reality, and you've got stuff going on, and you're not on vacation, you're facing reality, and so you're not moving vibrationally. But it is. It's moving. It's bubbling. It's getting ready for you to be ready for it, but you're not. And it's getting ready for you to be ready for it, but you're not. And it's getting ready for you to be ready for it, but you're not. You're not, but you hear the call, but you can't follow the call because you're not on the vibrational wavelength. But it makes you feel like you need to do something. So instead of doing this, where your thoughts are turning to things where it's inspired and helpful and you have all that leverage, instead, you do what most people do. You jump right into the action. You don't do the vibrational work. You jump right into the action. You make more phone calls, or you go in earlier, or you stay later, or you talk to more people about it. You don't do the vibrational work. Instead, you do the action work, which makes it get worse. You follow? The only work to do is the vibrational work. And your employers are not going to want to hear that from you. I'm sorry, I can't come to work today. I need to cheer up. I just need to cheer up. I just need to get feeling better about my life. And when I come to work, it's hard to do because what's there sucks. And so I'm not going to come in for a few days till I get feeling better about things. And so that doesn't feel practical to you. And if you jumped into that action, you'd probably get fired if that was the action you took. And so you've got to find some way to do the work without the action. You've got to find some way to move your emotion without the action, and let the action then just move through you and from you, so it's not calculated as action. So what did we just say? If you do the vibrational work, the action will all be inspired. It will be inspired. Inspired action. Inspired action. That's what you want.